invested like $300
Hmm.
2017 into Bitcoin. And the months went by, I forgot about it, but I went back to check. And when I logged in, that $300 grew to almost $900.
Oh,
So when
wow.
I saw that, I'm like, I don't know what happened, but I need to do that again. So yeah, that exciting.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DHomerRealestate podcast. I am your host, Dondre Homer. We're in season 2. And before we get into anything, if you like, comment, subscribe, download, or write a review. Anything to help the algorithm grow so more people can see the content. Today, we have a special guest. We have a nice little bio here that, that I guess will kind of, show and let people know about who this individual is. So, Ashley is an energetic and ambitious girl boss who quit the corporate 9-to-5 world to pursue her love for crypto, travel, and empowering others. She's on a mission to help others create generational wealth through crypto and has built a global brand with her Crypto Strategy Academy. Bob. She leads the industry as one of the top crypto educators in Canada and is the co-founder of Crypto Babes, an online community of women excited to learn about crypto, which has over 22,000 members. Let me say that again, 22,000 members. That's incredible. Ashley has spoken at many conferences, was featured on Women of Influence, and I'm so weird. Gal Talk Tech, and continues to impact others. And the individual I'm talking about is the queen of crypto, Ashley Wright. How are you doing?
I am doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I am so pumped, so excited to be here. Want to give it back to you because you're doing so many amazing things and inspiring a lot of people. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. Now, it is a tradition to start off with icebreaker questions. It's only 3 questions, but it gives the audience as well as myself to get to know you a little bit more. So the first question I have for you is, what was the most impactful book you have read?
That's a tough question. I think there's so many, but I think the more recent one that has been a game changer for me, I'm going to say is Mastery by Robert Greene. That book is powerful and I think underrated at the same time, but it's amazing.
Okay. What is it about, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so it's more about self-mastery. So I feel like it does a great job of like summing up all the success principles and putting it into one book.
Mm-hmm.
But even necessarily just focus on like financial success, but success as an individual, right? And to really maximize and achieve the greatness that we know we have within us. So it does a phenomenal job, and it was definitely a life-changing book for me, for sure.
I like that. I'm definitely going to write that because you were the individual. I've said this on other episodes that you were that one of the books that impacted me was The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. And you were the one who recommended that book to me. So I know for sure that this book, Mastery, would be great. Now, the second icebreaker question I have for you now is, who are the top 3 businessmen/women who you look for inspiration?
Good question. I'm going to say my dad is the first one. Definitely taught me a lot of what I know about business and success as a whole. The other one, I think I would say, I like Shark Tank a lot. So I a lot of the sharks that are on there, I like their mindset. So I would say someone like, and people are kind of think he's good and bad, but Mr. Wonderful. Guy that is a really great businessman, right? So of course, like I said, you have to take everything that he says with a grain of salt at the same time. Is really good at what he does, and I love watching and hearing how he analyzes different things and what his mindset is like when he's looking at business opportunities, because he's a sharp guy, right? So when it comes to business, yes, definitely him. And the third one, that's tough. Actually, is also on Shark Tank. I want to say it's Barbara. Shark. She's an older lady, but she is so super sharp. And once again, I love being able to see another woman that's like killing it. That's a total boss. So she's really amazing things too.
That's awesome. Now, the final icebreaker question, I want to preface by saying this. So I remember watching The Breakfast Club with DJ Envy, Charlamagne the God, and Angela Yee, and they had Kirk Franklin on, right? And I think one of the questions that they asked him, or one of the questions that he asked was, who is Michael Jackson? And they responded by saying, he's the king of pop. He's one of the greatest dancers of all time. He is just an amazing entertainer. And then he said, I didn't ask, what he did. I asked him who he was. And and that got me thinking. I want to ask you, like, what do you want to be remembered for?
Yeah, that's a great question. To be honest, I would say when it comes to what I want to be remembered, it aligns with what my purpose really is, which I believe my purpose is to help people, right? So being able to actually go into or impact someone's life to the point where they're like, hey, you know what? Because of Ashley, I was able to do X, Y, and Z, right?
Mm-hmm.
What it is for me, whether that's in a crypto capacity or self-development, or even if it's just inspiration, like whatever it is across the board, is really just to impact people. That's what really matters. That's what, of course, that's what your legacy can be once you impact it and actually change someone's life. So that's what it is. That's the goal for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's all the icebreaker questions. You passed the test. I'm joking. But thank you.
Scholars is an education center where we help students maximize their truest potential.
With more of that one-on-one focus, smaller class sizes, individual attention, doesn't matter your age, your grade, what subject you're in, Scholars has a program for you.
Now, I want to give you the opportunity to formally introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I think you, of course, did an amazing introduction, so I appreciate that. But yeah, a little bit about me. I, when I was younger, wanted to be a fashion designer, had no interest in business or finance or tech. But, later on got introduced to the space, heard about it through my parents. And at that time, back in like 2017, I thought they were crazy because no one was talking about crypto or Bitcoin or any of that type of stuff. But, started off investing, really fell in love with it. And decided to turn that into a business, being able to help with that. And then aside from that, I'm really community oriented too. So I love any initiatives that's like focused on like women empowerment, especially young women.
Yep.
And then anything that has to do with like the Black community, being able to empower and educate as well. So yeah, those are kind of my passions aside from, of course, cryptocurrency.
Now that's awesome, and I love that. And again, working with you before, I really see your heart, and I can honestly say that you're a real one who, when they say that they want to help the community, you are really in the community, in the trenches, really trying to help people, grow and be the best version of themselves. So again, kudos to you. Now, I really do want to get into the interview, and I really want to start with really talking about you going from the corporate world into business, because you did mention that you were in the 9-to-5 corporate world and then you transitioned. And I'm always curious to know, like, with that leap, how is that? So the first question is like, what was your career before taking that leap?
Yeah. So I was actually working for TD Bank. I think I was there for maybe 3 years or so. Okay. Slowly, whenever you're working in a corporate world, you're always trying to climb the corporate ladder, right? So that was kind of the grind for me, networking, trying to move up as much as I can. But, I was, my previous role was being able to work on the corporate side in communications, as well as mortgages as well. So that was kind of in that space. Of course, it was a great learning opportunity to kind of learn what's happening on the back end.
Yep.
But, I realized that, long story short, I'm not a great employee. I'm not, just having someone that's telling you when you can go on break, when you can go on vacation. And I always knew that I wanted to, I loved business. I loved the idea of being able to create wealth. And, to be honest, when I was younger, I never even knew that was an opportunity or an option. It wasn't. Parents started their own business, they were also working at the bank too. So it was kind of following their footsteps, but it wasn't until they started their own business that I started to learn about self-development, started reading books and understanding that wealth is actually an option out there, right? And so I was literally working my business and working my 9-to-5 at the same time. And I wasn't a good employee. So I really where they're asking me hey, Ashley, your productivity has been going down. And at the other end, my business has been going up.
Yeah.
So it definitely got to that point where I'm like, you know what? I have enough saved and I'm ready to make that jump. And I think that it was definitely something that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
But, at the end of the day, it's really just, believing in yourself.
That's true. And don't worry, I've noticed myself, I am not the greatest employee, so I'm happy to know that I'm not the only one. But like, I guess, you sharing that, you had some time to, I guess, think. So this decision wasn't really sporadic. You had time to plan, prepare, which is good because I know, some people may be like, you know what, I'm about to just jump in the deep end and sink or swim. But, you were smart enough and educated to be like, you know what? Okay, I have a plan and I want to actually just weed my way out, grow my side business and then grow. So that's I love that. I love that. Now, when you decided to actually, make that leap, did you have support from family, friends, coworkers and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's another really great question. And I definitely did. I had family that was really supportive. I had friends that were really supportive too. And I think that was that extra push that I needed. Because I knew that I wanted to, but of course, like actually doing it sometimes is like the whole nother thing, right?
Absolutely.
Like, okay, yeah, like you can do this. When is the date? Like, when is the date in stone that you're like going to be out of this? And that's the thing. Like, I knew I wanted to, but still nervous to actually make that jump, right? Where I didn't have like a set deadline or a set date. And so as soon as I had that, that's when things started to actually move in and take charge and really just start to happen. And I sent that email, did what I had to do. And that was that. But yes, support is literally everything. And sometimes, I was fortunate to have support, but there's other people that don't have support.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're literally on their own because maybe people don't believe in their business or don't believe in what they're doing. So at the time, it's like you have to ask yourself, how much do you believe in yourself? How much do you believe in, the opportunity that you have? Mm-hmm. And are you going to do it regardless of what other people say? Right.
Awesome. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Now, if you can go back in time, is there anything, what is that one thing that you think you would do differently?
What would I do differently? I probably would say network more. I think because like for me, I can be introverted at times. And so like when it comes to work, like the 9 to 5, I was just go in there, doing my job and then go home, work on my business. Right. So I wasn't necessarily in that mindset of networking as much, but I think there's so many opportunities when it comes to, regardless of what environment that you're in, is to network because you never know who might know who or what opportunities are on the table. So I think probably networking more would have been amazing.
Mm-hmm, that's awesome. Now, I kind of want to transition now back to your family because you mentioned, your father and your parents in the bank. So I kind of want to know, like, how was your where you come from, and also like your childhood. How was your childhood like?
Yes. So I was actually born in Toronto.
Okay,
so, basically my whole life. But yeah, like I said, when I was younger, I never had any type of ideas about, business, entrepreneurship. Like I said, I really just wanted to be a fashion designer. And then later, I feel like we always go through that route of making that decision. Do we follow our passion or do we that practical aspect, right? So even though I liked fashion, I decided to actually study HR, right? So I decided to go that route, but same thing, never fell in love with it and made that shift. But, even thinking about family, like I said, my parents that were also working 9 to 5s, making that shift because they made that decision to, to start their own business. That's where I had the opportunity to learn about self-development. Like when I was really young, we'd be driving, they're always playing like audiobooks, like Jim Rohn and all these different amazing people. At the time, I'm young. I'm like, I don't want to listen to this. I'm here MP4 or whatever. Age now, but back in the day, I would rather like listen to music because I didn't understand. So, definitely the little seeds that they were planting, but it definitely paid off, which is the best part.
That's amazing. The fact that they actually had that. So I guess although they were, trying to, I guess, transition themselves, like was these conversations about like, let's say like real estate, personal finance, businesses, like were they like discussions in the home that they tried to like, I guess, try to plant seeds in you, or like, how was that?
Yeah. So a lot of it, not necessarily was discussions, but I learned a lot from just watching them. So they were, going for business, going to different events, or hosting different events, or working with different people. I had the opportunity, I literally was just tagging along, and I had the opportunity to observe, them building a team, talking to people, doing trainings, right? So I actually got the opportunity to learn firsthand of like what it takes to build a business.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't necessarily discussions, like verbal discussions at first, but a lot of it was just observing what they were doing. And I think later on when I'm like, okay, you know what, this makes sense. I actually do want to learn. And I actually started, I'm like, okay, yes, I'm open. I'm open to reading the books. I'm open to having those conversations. And that's of course how, crypto got in, because I'm like, okay, I'm open to trying it. And even though it sounds crazy, I'm like, yes, I'll do it. So they definitely changed my mindset, but it was a process.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful to, have, parents that are able to be like, okay, you know what, there's something in the sauce that you guys are cooking that I like the taste of it. So I'm gonna let me dip my finger in and, try something. So that's awesome. So again, going into crypto, so they were the ones who introduced you to crypto. Do you have an idea of how they got introduced to it? Because you said in the intro around 2017 is when they got into it. So it's like crypto was new. So can you talk about the introduction to it?
Yeah. So I think they got in like I said, for me, it was about 2017. For them, I think maybe even like 2015.
Oh, wow.
Pretty early. And I think they, because we're doing business, they always had like different business contacts, people that they were networking with. And I think there was a gentleman that they were doing business with that introduced it to them. And they were a little bit skeptical at first, but decided to just jump in, started learning, and then their business started to be around the cryptocurrency space as well. So they started to learn as they kind of went through it. And then same thing, like I learned a lot from them in the beginning stages, right? Because there wasn't a lot of resources or different places to learn. So I'm just like, yes, whatever you have, just teach me, right? That's where we kind of just navigate those different platforms and so forth.
Okay, that's interesting. So before we actually dive into crypto, because you're the crypto queen, what about crypto intrigued you to choose crypto over any other investment vehicles, like let's say real estate, stocks, and stuff like that?
Yeah, actually, crypto, like when I got involved with crypto investing, that was actually my first time investing. Like I actually haven't done anything else before that. I knew like I wanted to get into stocks, but I never actually, got into it just yet. So that investment was my first investment across the board.
Oh, wow.
And, when I thought about the other industries, they of course sounded really interesting, but with crypto, it just sounded so different, because I think a lot of people talk about stocks and other assets, but I didn't really hear anybody talking about crypto. And then also, I'm not going to lie, the money, when I started to see everything take off, I was like, what is this? And how do I do that? Right. So I invested like $300 in 2017 into Bitcoin. And the months went by, I forgot about it, but I went back to check. And when I logged in, that $300 grew to almost $900.
Oh, wow.
So when I'm like, I don't know what happened, but I need to do that again. So yeah, not excited. Enough said, but ever since then, I got pumped about it, and I just felt really early because I was putting it on social media. People thought I was crazy, right? And at the same time, like I just felt like a really early opportunity, something that was at the beginning stages that was just getting ready to take off.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, I guess let's dive into it, into cryptocurrency. Obviously, we're now in 2022. Cryptocurrency has blown up a lot. But I know there's a lot of people who are still confused of the whole thing about crypto. So I'll love, for you to, talk about what is it and how does it work?
Yeah. So I try to keep everything as simple as possible, but cryptocurrency essentially is a digital currency, right? That is free from, quote unquote, centralized government, right? So it's not necessarily government regulated like how we have, the Canadian dollar, US dollar, and so forth, but it really allows individuals to have freedom when it comes to their money, right? And so it's very similar to how, if all of us do, online banking, where you're able to log in, see your balance, not crypto, but you can send funds, right? All of those same features you can do with crypto, but it's just like you have freedom where, there's no limitations, people telling you how much you can spend per day, or how much you can spend, right? right? It's really, you can do whatever you want with it. And another quick thing too, like when I first got into crypto, I was really just focused about the money side. But later on, when I was attending different conferences and learning, I realized that crypto is actually bigger than just investing. There's a whole other side to it where it's actually helping people and solving problems. And, I realized that there's a lot of people around the world that don't even have access to financial institutions, right?
Wow.
To get credit or to get a mortgage or loans. And I'm like, this is huge, right? Giving people more opportunities aside from just investment opportunities.
Yeah, I like that, and again, me, dipping my toe into crypto. I'm not gonna say I'm big into crypto, but dipping my toe into it, and also doing the research, I've seen that it is solving a lot of the third world countries problems. I know Akon is very big in, he's trying to have his own coin as well, but you said something about decentralized and it's not centralized, and you said that it's not like the government or whoever cannot control it, but is there any way that they can actually like grab a hold of crypto and be like, all right, now we control everything here? Like, can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. So the unique thing with it, and let's go like specifically with something like Bitcoin, is they can't control it, right? Because when we think about it, and technically we don't know like who's actually behind Bitcoin, the actual creator, right? They have just an alias name, but like the technology is already here, right? And it's all focused on peer-to-peer. So it's not like we need a government or financial institution in order for that system to work. The system is already working because peer-to-peer, right? So we do have, governments around the world that are trying to control it, putting limitations on, which platforms you can use or if you can even have it, right? And so regardless, it's just something they can't necessarily stop, right? And so that's like you mentioned, like, I know I have a lot of students in Africa and even different places. I'm going to go specifically like Nigeria, like their local currency is not doing well, right? And they're not told, their government's not for cryptocurrency as well. But when we think about the people that's there, right, they're still going and leaning on cryptocurrency on a day-to-day basis, right, in terms of their transactions and how they're actually buying and selling services, right? So it's like, even though the governments may not necessarily be for it and they're trying to be against it, some places anyway, there's no way for them to stop it. They can just try to limit your access to buying it or selling it. But essentially, they can't.
Okay, so I guess that's kind of like a possible negative that they may try to stop cryptocurrency to be active in in real world society, of like to buy, like, I don't know, milk or something, right? They may try to limit, like, okay, what is this type of coin? But okay, that's interesting. But it's good to know that no one can really say that, grab a hold of it and be like, all right, I'm in control of everything, which is good. And you touched on the technology behind it. So I did my little researches, and it's called blockchain technology. Again, I'm not a guru. This is where you're here. I would love for you to touch on, like, what is blockchain technology and how does that work?
Yeah. So yes, that's right. Blockchain technology is like the foundation of what cryptocurrency is actually built on. Right. So as an example, and like to break it down even further, when we think about like how we have the internet, that would be the equivalent to something like blockchain. And then all the different applications that we use, right, on the internet, that would be the equivalent of something like crypto. Right. So we have the internet, which is the foundation, which is like blockchain, but cryptocurrency is just one application, right? One use case, right, for blockchain. And that's the only thing, like, that's the joke, is everybody's excited about crypto, but this is just getting started in terms of what blockchain can really do. So that's, to break it down even a little bit further, when we think about blockchain, literally, it's just a chain of blocks, right, that keeps a list and a history of all the transactions, and allows, systems and those transactions to be very secured, very permanent as well, so people can't alter any of the data that's there. And the security and the transparency is probably the biggest thing, where all the information that's on there is literally like a public ledger, so everybody can see and verify that, hey, this person actually has this amount of money, or this is what's actually out there, which is really cool.
Oh wow. So can banks like adopt blockchain?
So There are different ways to do it, right? For sure. And that's the cool thing about blockchains. Even though, yes, it's like public or it's open to everybody, you can have some blockchains that are still private, where it's like a lot of the information is out there and it's public. But when it comes to like who can actually add information on there, then yes, it's only certain people have access, right? So when we think about the banks right now, when they say that, they have a certain amount of money in their bank, you don't really know if that's the case, right? You're just kind of taking their word for it. Right. So that's kind of the concept where it's like now with blockchain, like whatever it says, that's exactly what it is. You can't like alter the data.
You can't lie.
Literally, that's what it is. So
I like that. So I guess let's say there's someone right now who, because I now see a lot of there's fintech companies, coming out like out there. How would you, let's say you have a business idea, how can you now, where do you go to get the blockchain technology? Or is it like some type of coding that you have to put into anything? Like exactly where do you find it?
Yeah, so really great question. So for those, like for businesses that want to incorporate blockchain in terms of what they're doing, the first thing I'd recommend though is to actually get educated, because there's a lot of different ways that you can actually use blockchain in terms of your business, because they have like very distinct characteristics and how you can use it. But first you want to, of course, learn about the different ways and then see which one would make the most sense for you, right? If you're actually going to have a business that's in the blockchain space, or maybe you just want to use, blockchain for like the back end in terms of like the data that you're using and stuff like that, right? From the security aspect of your information. So it depends on how you want to use it, right? But it also depends on the type of business that you're in too. Because now when we think about, some of the crypto trends, blockchain is also responsible for NFTs. And that's like a space that everybody's getting into that can be used for every industry too, right? So there's a lot of different aspects to it. And then once you have that, then that's where, yes, you want to talk to someone, a developer that can actually help you integrate all of that into your current processes.
Okay, now I'm happy that you mentioned that, because I want to touch on NFTs, because they popped up out of nowhere to me and I have absolutely no idea what that is. So can you touch on exactly what is an NFT?
Yeah, so NFT stands for non-fungible token, but it'll be like, okay, well, what is that? So, now to break it down, thinking about a digital asset itself that is individually unique, right? That cannot be interchangeable. So as an example, if let's say I have $5, you have $5, we can swap it. It's still the same value. That's fine. But with NFTs, if I had an NFT of a $5 bill and same for you, we couldn't exchange it. Even though they look the same, they're both individual and they both have their own value, right? One was created first, one was created second, third, fourth, and fifth. And each of those individual assets itself have their own unique value too, right? So they can take different forms, right? There's different categories, whether it's like fashion, sports, photography, art, or different types of NFTs, but it also depends on what you're interested in too.
So now, is there a specific way that you can prove the legitimacy of these NFTs? Because now I'm hearing that there's a lot of fraud business going on with people just creating things. Like, how do you prove the legitimacy of an NFT?
Yeah, so that's actually where it goes back to the blockchain. Blockchain literally stores all the transactions on there, right? But people ask me, why should I, buy, as an example, NBA Top Shot, which is, like the digital highlight of one of the NBA players making a shot. It's like that same thing is on YouTube, which it is. But when we look at the blockchain, like the actual system that shows who owns what, we can see who actually owns it and who doesn't, right? Which is the big factor.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, I want to dive into, your crypto strategy, because again, I had a special guest last season, Shaq Hall, and he mentioned your name. He said that you are someone that he goes to with strategies. Now, in the most recent years, I've seen a growth of coaches and people starting their own different little clubs or different things. Like, what separates you and Crypto Strategy Academy from the other coaches?
Yeah, and you're so right. Honestly, like you look on Instagram or TikTok, whatever, everybody's a crypto coach. I mean, people make money. They're like, yeah, well, follow me. I can teach you this. This is
Mhm.
a lesson. But I think for me, or especially if I'm like, if it was the other way around, what I'm looking at is, does this person actually have experience in the space, right? Did they just get in like 2021, 2022, or had they been in the game where they've seen, as an example, back in 2017, 2018, where we saw Bitcoin run up significantly to like 21K and then drop down to 7? Have they experienced that type of
Mhm.
market cycle before? The other thing that you're looking at too is their credibility, right? People that they've worked with, if they actually have an established business, right? Within the space and actually know what they're talking about.
Mhm.
And then in terms of what separates me as well is I don't think there's seen too many women of color, like Black women that are in the crypto space, right? A
Mhm.
lot of times crypto itself is really male dominated.
Yeah.
And, there's not a lot of people of color. And then aside from that, there's not a lot of women of color, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's the thing that's different. And I try to use that to my advantage, right? I put it out there and I try to own that hey, like, yes, I'm a woman in the space. I know what I'm talking about. And I'm a woman of color, right? That's also really passionate about empowering the community and bringing the community with me on this journey.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Now, I know time has been far spent, and I want to be, conscious of the time. However, I do want to touch on, crypto babes and the online community that you have. And again, I love the fact that you're that you focus on women empowerment, because I love seeing it. And again, 22,000 members. Now, what is it? What is it about, empowering, women that is like, I need to, like, what is that drive? Where do you get that drive from?
Yeah, I would say the drive just comes from experience of knowing what it's like to be in a space that's male dominated, right? A lot of times I go to different events or have different conversations or collaborations with different crypto like leaders in the cryptocurrency space. And a lot of times I'm like the only woman at the table,
Wow.
right? So it's like there's no women, and then you don't really see a lot of people of color too, right?
Mhm.
So same thing with different conferences and stuff that I attend. So it's like this mission is, yes, I'm passionate about what I do, but it's like I want to make a difference in this space, right? By not only just talking to women about crypto, but helping them get into the space, whether it's finding jobs or careers, internships, or whatever it is within the space so they can actually grow. Because I still think this is the future, and not just crypto, but blockchain too, because there's a lot of opportunities from the development side too. So that's what really pushes me. And, Crypto Babes, it's still in the beginning stages, but we're so passionate about what we do. And we just had our first event in Miami.
Pop Bob, I seen it.
Yes, it was so exciting. I'm looking to do one here in Toronto. So
Yes.
that's exciting too. But yeah, it's all about empowering. That's really what it is.
That's lovely. Now, the final question before I let you go is, what advice would you give someone, male or female, who is now on the fence of investing in crypto? What is that one piece of advice you give?
Yeah. So even before you put a dime into crypto, you want to first think about your goal. Like, why are you getting into crypto? What is it that you really want from it? And I think a lot of people just kind of get in for the hype. You have to think about it. Like, I always ask my students, I'm like, okay, what are your crypto goals? Or even more so, what are your financial goals? So what is it? Maybe you want to, buy a house or buy a car or pay off, some of your debt or whatever it is. These are the goals you need to have in mind so that you can actually understand what your approach is going to be for the market in terms of how are you going to enter, how are you going to monetize, and how are you going to exit the market, right? So you can actually reach those goals using crypto. So once you do that, then everything else becomes a little bit more clear. But that game plan, that strategy is so, so, so key.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, there you have it. I want to thank you again, Ashley, for taking the time out of your day, your very busy day, to sit down with me. Do you have any socials, anything that you would like to promote before we end?
Yeah, for sure. So to find me, I'm on Instagram at The Right Success, or you can visit therightsuccess.com. And I think the most popular thing is probably the Crypto Strategy Academy, which we also talks about being able to learn how to start investing, trading, and earning crypto. So I'm excited. Once again, I also want to say thank you so much for having me. You are amazing.
Appreciate it.
I love how you are so consistent and really just inspiring, the community with your content. So kudos back to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, there you have it, guys. Thank you for tuning into the DHomer Real Estate Podcast. You can listen on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. You can follow the podcast on IG as well as TikTok at the DHomer Real Estate Podcast. And on Twitter is the DHomer Pod. And then you can follow me personally at DHomer Real Estate on IG and TikTok. Again, thank you, Ashley. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Deuces.